Good day everyone, I am Jerome Algabre Gomez, Base Criminology 3, and this is my topic all about dangerous drugs. It's not hard to find drugs, and sometimes it may seem like everyone's doing them or wanting you to do them. But as with anything that seems too good to be true, there are downsides and dangers to taking drugs. How drugs work. Drugs are chemicals or substances that change the way our bodies work. Some are medicines that help people when doctors prescribe them. Many have no medical use or benefits. When taken, usually by swallowing, inhaling, or injecting, abused drugs find their way into the bloodstream. From there, they move to the brain and other parts of the body. In the brain, drugs may intensify or dull the senses, change how alert or sleepy people feel, and sometimes drugs will decrease physical pain. Because of the way these drugs work on the brain, they affect the ability to make healthy choices and decisions. Even drinking makes people more likely to get involved in dangerous situations. Like driving makes people more likely to get involved in dangerous situations, like driving under the influence or having unprotected sex. Although substances can feel good at first, they can do a lot of harm to the body and brain. Drinking alcohol, smoking or using tobacco, taking illegal drugs, even sniffing glue all glue all damage the human body. If you think you or a friend may be addicted to drugs, talk to a parent, your doctor, school counselor, or nurse. They can help you get the help you need. Several kinds of treatment are available for drug addiction. The two main types are behavioral, helping a person change behavior, and pharmacological, treating a person by using medicine. Experts in drug treatment teach people how to live without drugs, dealing with cravings, avoiding situations that could lead to drug use, and preventing and handling relapses. It can be hard to overcome drug addiction without professional help and treatment. It takes time and isn't something that can be done alone. Everyone needs support. Experts who help people with addictions are trained to help, not to judge. To find a drug treatment center in your area, search online, check out this, or ask a doctor or counselor for advice. What are drugs? Drugs affect the way your body and mind function. They can change how you feel, think, and behave. People take drugs for different reasons and in different ways. Find out about legal and illegal drugs. Drugs affect your mind and body. Drugs are substances that changes a person's mental or physical state. They can affect the way your brain works, how you feel and behave, your understanding and your senses. This makes them unpredictable and dangerous, especially for young people. The effects of drugs are different for each person and drug. Learn more about the effects of drugs and the different types of drugs. So, let's talk about why do people use drugs. So for you, why do people use drugs? And I will explain it to you so that you will know why do people use drugs. Drugs change the way your body or brain works. People take drugs because they are curious and want to see what happens. They want to fit in or feel pressured by their peers. They enjoy the effect on their body, for example, feeling excited and energetic or relaxed and calm. They help they help them cope with situations. For example, reducing pain or relieving stress. They have they have a drug dependency and need to keep taking them to avoid withdrawal symptoms. How are drugs made? Drugs come from different sources, plants, for example, cannabis, mushrooms, or tobacco. Processed plant products, for example, alcohol or heroin. Synthetic chemicals, for example, ecstasy or amphetamines. The processes used to make drugs varies widely, but drug products have two main types of ingredients. Active ingredients, the ingredients that biologically affect your body. Inactive ingredients. These generally have no biological effect. They include binding agents, capsules, dyes, preservatives, flavorings, and other ingredients. Legally manufactured drugs usually list all their ingredients so you know what you are taking. Street drugs can contain almost anything as makers often add impurities to make them go further and you cannot be sure what you are taking. How do people take drugs? People take drugs in different ways. Common methods include swallowing tablets or drinking liquids. The body absorbs the drug through the stomach lining. Breathing them into the lungs, the body absorbs the drug through the lining of the lungs. Snorting into the nose, the body absorbs the drug through the thin nasal lining. Injecting, the user injects the drug directly into the bloodstream through the skin. The body slowly absorbs the drug from a cream or patch rectally, or vaginally as a suppository. The body absorbs the drug through the bowel or vaginal lining. No matter which way you take the drug, it will end up in your bloodstream and affect different parts of your body. So never take drugs, guys. Never take drugs. Legal and illegal drugs. Drugs can be legal. For example, alcohol, caffeine, and tobacco. Illegal. For example, cocaine or heroin. Legal drugs. Some drugs such as alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine are legal but may be subject to restrictions. Remember, legal drugs are subject to restrictions based on age, location of use, driving, and point of sale regulations. So even if there are legal drugs, there we cannot abuse because there are restrictions. So that's why we regulate and control the active ingredients in legal drugs, the alcohol content of drinks, the milligrams of nicotine in cigarettes. Legal drugs. Other drugs such as cannabis, amphetamines, ecstasy, cocaine, and heroin are legal. They are not subject to quality or price control, and the amount of active ingredient varies. A person using illegal drugs can never be sure of how strong the drug is or what is actually in it. Different batches of an illegal manufactured drug different may have different amounts of the drug and other unidentified additives. It is against the law to possess, use, make, important, or sell illegal drugs. The penalties for drug offenses vary depending on the age of the offender, adult or minor, type of drug, quantities, involve previous offenses and the state or territory in which the offense happened. Illicit drugs. Illicit drugs include illegal drugs, prescription medicines that have been obtained illegally or are not being used for medical purposes. Other substances that are being used inappropriately, for example, sniffing glue or inhaling paint thinner. Medicines are legal drug. If you've ever been sick and had to take medicine, you already know about one kind of drugs. Remember that, kids. Medicines are legal drugs, meaning doctors can prescribe them for patients, but and stores can sell them and people are allowed to them, but it's not legal or safe for people to use these medicines in any way they want. Or, or it's not legal or safe. It's not legal or safe for people to use these medicines in any way or to buy them from people who are selling them illegally. Remember, cigarettes, alcohol, and marijuana. Cigarettes and alcohol are two kinds of legal drugs in the United States. Adults 21 years and older can buy cigarettes and alcohol, but smoking and excessive drinking are not healthy for adults and there off limits for kids. Although marijuana is an illegal drug in some states, a growing number of states have made it legal. Some states allow doctors to prescribe it to people for some conditions. Illegal drugs. When people talk about a drug problem, they usually mean abusing legal drugs or using illegal drugs such as ecstasy, cocaine, LSD, crystal meth, and heroin to get high. So, why are illegal drugs dangerous? Bakit nga ba ang illegal drugs ay dangerous? Illegal drugs aren't good for anyone, but they are particularly bad for a kid or teen whose body is still growing. Illegal drugs can damage the brain, heart, and other important organs. Cocaine, for instance, can cause a heart attack, even in a kid or teen. While using drugs, people are also less able to do well in school, sports, and other activities. It's often harder to think clearly and make good decisions. People can do dangerous things that could hurt them or other people when they use drugs. Why do people use illegal drugs? Sometimes kids and teens try drugs to fit in with a group of friends, or they might be curious or just bored. Someone may use illegal drugs for many reasons, but often because they help the person escape from reality for a while. A drug might temporarily make someone who is sad or upset feel better or forget about problems. But this escape lasts only until the drug wears off. Drugs don't solve problems, and often using drugs often causes other problems on top of the problems the person had in the first place. Somebody who uses drugs can become dependent on them or addicted. This means that the person's body becomes so accustomed to having this drug that he or she can function well without it. Once someone is addicted, it's very hard to stop taking drugs. Stopping can cause withdrawal symptoms such as vomiting or throwing up, sweating and tremors or shaking. These sick feelings continue until the person's body gets adjusted to being drug free again. So, can you tell if someone is using drugs? If someone is using drugs, you might notice changes in how the person looks or acts. If someone is using drugs, you might notice changes in how the person looks or acts. Here are some of those signs, but it's important to remember that depression or another problem could be causing these changes. Somebody using drugs might lose interest in school, change friends to hang out with kids who use drugs, become moody, negative, cranky, or worried all the time. Ask to be left alone a lot, have trouble concentrating, sleep a lot, maybe even in class, get in fights, have or red or puffy, have red or puffy eyes, lose or gain weight, cough a lot, have a runny nose most of the time. So that that was the signs of the people who are using drugs. So if you saw or you know of someone who has that signs, so maybe they are using drugs. If they are not depressed, they are using drugs. So what can I do to help? If you think someone is using drugs, the best thing to do is to tell an adult that you trust. This could be a parent, other relative, teacher, coach, or school counselor. The person might need professional help to stop using drugs. A grown up can help the person find the treatment needed to stop using drugs. Another way kids can help kids by by choosing not to try or use drugs. It's a good way for friends to stick together. Words to know, words to know. Understanding drugs and why they are dangerous is another Words to know. Understanding drugs and why they are dangerous is another good step for a kid to take. Here are some words that may be new to you. First, addiction. Someone has an addiction when he or she becomes dependent on or can't stop taking the drug without getting sick or craves a drug all of the time. Depressant. A depressant is a drug that slows a person down. Doctors prescribe depressant to help people be less angry, anxious, or tense. Depressant, Depressants relax muscles and make people feel sleepy, less stressed out, or like their head is stuffed. Some people may use these drugs illegally to slow themselves down and help bring on sleep, especially after using various kinds of stimulants. Hallucinogen. A hallucinogen is a drug, such as LSD, that changes a person's mood and makes him or her see or hear things that aren't really there or think strange thoughts. High. A high is the feeling that drug users want to get when they take drugs. There are many types of highs, including a very happy or spacey feeling or a feeling that someone has special powers, such as the ability to fly or to see into the future. Inhalant. An inhalant such as glue or gasoline. Remember, an inhalant is um is a glue or gasoline. Kana is snip or huff, meaning simhot to give the user an immediate high. Inhalants inhalants produce a quick feeling of being drunk, followed by sleepiness, staggering, dizziness, and confusion. Narcotic. A narcotic dulls the body's senses, leaving a person less aware and alert and feeling carefree, and relieves pain. Narcotics can cause someone to sleep, fall into a stupor, have convulsions, and even sleep into a coma. Certain narcotics, such as codeine, are legal if given by doctors to treat pain. Heroin is an illegal narcotic because it is has dangerous side effects and is very addictive. Stimulants. Stimulant speeds up the body and brain. Stimulants speeds up the body and brain. Stimulants such as methamphetamines and cocaine have the opposite effect of depressants. Usually, stimulants make someone feel high and energized. When the effects of a stimulant wear off, the person will feel tired or sick. Sample pictures of drugs or different kinds of drugs. So the first one is shabu. This is the this is a sample picture of a shabu. So it looks like a salt or a broke glass. That's why drug users call them batu in Bisaya or stone in English. I don't know why they call it batu. Maybe it looks like a stone, a white stone. So let's talk about shabu. Shabu, a slang term for the drug methamphetamine, is used in Japan, Hong Kong, here in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Yaba, also called shabu in Philippines, pills with a mixture of methamphetamine and caffeine prevalent throughout Asia. So the next one is this is ecstasy. So it says it it looks like just a tablet or a medicine tablet for sick people, but that's why if your friend give you like this, don't drink it directly because you don't know you're already taking drugs. So let's talk about ecstasy. Ecstasy is a methylene dioxymethamphetamine, commonly known as ecstasy, E, or Molly, is a psychoactive drug primarily used for recreational purposes. The desired effects include altered sensations, increased energy, empathy, as well as pleasure. When taken by mouth, effects begin in 30 to 45 minutes and last 3 to 6 hours. And next is sha- um, cocaine. This is cocaine. It's just it's it It was just looks like Johnson's baby powder, but who knows? It's a cocaine. So let's talk about cocaine. Cocaine is a tropane alkaloid and stimulant drug obtained primarily from the leaves of two coca species native to South America, Erythroxylum coca and Erythroxylum novogranatens. It is most commonly used as a recreational drug and euphoriant. And next is, so maybe you are already familiar with this picture or this kind of drug or plant. This is what we call marijuana or cannabis, or in Bisaya they call this bukoy or the five fingers. And from that you see that top of the picture, the plant, the top of the plant, they called it in Bisaya buds. And this is also a drugs. This is the one of the very the top one, maybe the top one common drug here in Philippines or in the world. So let's talk about marijuana or cannabis. Cannabis, also known as marijuana among other names, is a psychoactive drug from the cannabis plant native to Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent. The cannabis plant has been used as a drug for both recreational and entheogenic purposes and in various traditional medicines for centuries. Cannabinoids, approximately 60 cannabinol, main psychosubstance trans-delta CH3O OH CH3 content, percentage herbal cannabis, cannabis resin, cannabis oil 10%. Note, numbers in brackets indicate upper THC contents in cannabis cultivated indoor as a result of advances in plant selection and cultivation, such as the use of cloning and indoor hydroponic cultivation, growing plants without soil in water or sand. The level of THC in herbal cannabis may be increased to more than 25% yielding. In turn, resin, which contains up to 40% THC, also greenhouse cultivation allows some 4 harvests per year, thus increasing the profits of clandestine operations. Cannabis definition. Cannabis means the flowering or fruiting tops of the cannabis plant, excluding the seeds and leaves when not accompanied by the tops, from which the resin has not been extracted by whatever name they may be designated. 1961 Convention, Article 1, Paragraph 1. The term cannabis is also used to generally describe different products obtained from the cannabis plant. The cannabis or hemp plant, Cannabis sativa L. cannabinaceae, is a single plant species but exists in many different biological, chemical, and or morphological varieties. It is a cosmopolite annual plant bush growing widely throughout the temperate and tropical zones of the world. Common illicit forms: loose herbal material, blocks of compressed herbal material, corn cob shaped herbal material wrapped in coarse vegetable fiber, herbal material tied using twine around a central bamboo cane, herbal material in a small round wrapped in paper. Pharmacological effects: sought after effects, sense of well-being, euphoria, a high feeling, pleasurable state of relaxation, enhancement of sensory experience, more vivid sense of sight, smell, taste, and hearing. So note, the World Health Organization or the WHO has published a report on cannabis, a health perspective and research agenda. WHO MSA PSA 97.4 which conclude that despite significant advances in research over the past years, there is still a need for further research in several important areas including clinical and epidemiological research on human health effects, chemistry and pharmacology, and research into the therapeutic uses of cannabinoids. So, short-term effects: increased appetite, increased pulse rate, reddening of the eyes, while effects last: intellectual and physical performance, driving a car or performing other complex tasks are impaired. At a later stage, the user becomes quiet, reflective, and sleepy. With larger doses, perceptions of sound, color, and other sensations may be sharpened or distorted, and thinking becomes slow and confused in very large doses. The effects of cannabis are similar to those of a hallucinogen: confusion, restlessness, excitement, and hallucinations, which may cause anxiety and panic, or may even precipitate a psychotic episode. Long-term effects: development of moderate tolerance, possible psychological dependence, loss of drive and of interest in sustained activity. Cannabis smoke has been shown to contain 50% more tar than smoke from a high tar cigarette. With regular use, risk of lung cancer, chronic bronchitis, and other lung lysis increases. Why do people use drugs? People use drugs for a variety of reasons. Young people often use drugs for the same reasons that adults do. Some of these include to have fun, to relax and forget problems, to gain confidence, to socialize out of curiosity as a form of escapism, to lessen inhibitions, to remove personal responsibility for decisions, to celebrate or commiserate, to relieve boredom and stress, self-medication, to cope with problems. Friends, parents, older brothers and sisters, and the media can also influence a young person's decision. So, let's move on. Effects of drugs. The experience that a person has when using alcohol or other drugs will vary from person to person depending on the following. First, individual user: mood, physical size, health, gender, previous experience with hallucinogens, expectations of the drug, personality, whether the person has had food, and whether other drugs have been taken. Polydrug use. Polydrug use occurs when two or more drugs are used at or near the same time. Mixing drugs can also occur when a manufacturer combines different drugs to achieve a specific effect or mixes in cheaper chemicals. This can result in a person combining drugs unintentionally. Drug: cocaine, coke, freebase, crack, Charlie C. Rock description. Cocaine is a stimulant drug which affects the central nervous system by increasing the activity of certain chemicals in the brain, producing a feeling of increased alertness and reduced fatigue. Cocaine is usually snorted or swallowed. but can be injected or smoked in the form of crack or freebase. Smoking crack or freebase is uncommon in Australia. Drug ecstasy. Pills Bickies descriptions. Ecstasy is a derivative of amphetamine and has both stimulant and hallucinogenic properties. Tablets or capsules are usually swallowed. They are not intended to be injected and can cause major damage to the body's organs. Effects can begin within 30 minutes and last up to 6 hours. Drug hallucinogens, LSD, acid trips, masses, tabs, descriptions. Hallucinogens describe a class of drugs that produce hallucinations. A hallucination is an illusion of seeing or hearing something that is not actually there. They can be produced synthetically or naturally. The most commonly known hallucinogen is synthetic lysergic acid diethylamide or LSD. Natural hallucinogenic chemicals are found in plants such as the peyote, cactus, mescaline, and some mushrooms. Psilocybin LSD is usually swallowed. Effects start within 30 to 60 minutes, peak in 3 to 5 hours, and last from 9 to 24 hours. Mescaline can be chewed or boiled into a liquid and drunk. Effects last from 4 to 6 hours. Mushrooms can be eaten raw, cooked, or made into a drink. Effects last from 4 to 6 hours. Drug heroin hammer. It's smack, horse, white, beige, brown description. Heroin is a depressant. It sedates the body's central nervous system, reducing the activity of certain chemicals in the brain, slows down the body, including breathing and heart rate. Heroin is usually injected, but can be snorted, swallowed, and smoked. Drug caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. Drug stimulants increase the activity of certain chemicals in the brain, producing a feeling of increased alertness and reduced fatigue in its purest form. Caffeine consists of bitter tasting crystals. It is found in many common substances like coffee, tea, cocoa, chocolate, cola, avoid soft drinks, energy drinks, and some medical preparations. Steroids, anabolic steroids, roids, deer juice. Steroids can be prescribed by a doctor to treat some conditions athletes. Bodybuilders and some young people may use anabolic steroids illegally to improve their body size or athletic performance. Anabolic androgenic steroids have two types of effects. Anabolic effects include increased muscle growth. The androgenic effect increase the body's male characteristics. In this table, the word steroid refers to anabolic and androgenic steroids. Drugs and the law. Illegal drugs except cannabis in Western Australia under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1981 it is illegal to use, possess, manufacture or supply drugs such as amphetamines, cocaine, ecstasy, hallucinogens, and heroin. Offenses under this act carry heavy fines and or prison sentence. Penalties range from a $2,000 fine and or 2 years in prison to a 100,000 fine and or imprisonment for 25 years. A person convicted of a drug offense will receive a criminal record, which can lead to difficulties in getting a job, health insurance, credit, and or visas for overseas travel. Cannabis is harmful. It is against the law for people in Western Australia to cultivate, possess, use, sell, or supply cannabis, or to possess pipes and other smoking implements contains detectable traces of cannabis. The possession of small amounts of cannabis is still an offense. People apprehended with small amounts of cannabis may be issued a cannabis intervention requirement under the CIR scheme. People may issue a CIR notice to eligible people found in possession or use of small amounts of cannabis and or possession of a smoking implement containing traces of cannabis. It is against the law to sell cannabis, smoking paraphernalia, or to display them for sale in a shop or retail outlet. Selling cannabis, smoking paraphernalia to a child under the age of 18 years attracts a higher penalty than selling to an adult. The Cannabis Intervention Requirements Scheme, a person is eligible for a CIR if they are age 14 years or over and are found using or in possession of not more than 10 grams of cannabis and or found in possession of a smoking implement containing detectable traces of cannabis. An adult can only receive one CIR while a young person aged 14 to 17 years can be given a CIR on two separate occasions. An adult who previously received a CIR and commits a second or subsequent cannabis-related offense will be prosecuted through the courts. A young person who commits a third or subsequent cannabis-related offense may be referred to a juvenile justice team were appropriate under the Young Offenders Act 1994 rather than being charged. If a person has previously been convicted of a cannabis-related offense and was an adult at the time of conviction, he or she would be ineligible to receive a CIR. Previous convictions for serious drug offenses and offenses of a violent or sexual nature may also preclude a person from being given a CIR. A person who has been given a CIR will be required to book and complete a cannabis intervention session CIS within 28 days or elect to have the matter heard in court. If the person books and completes a CIS, they will not be required to appear in court. No further action will be taken against them for the alleged offense, and they will not receive a criminal conviction. If they are unable to complete a CIS within the 28-day period, they may apply in writing to police for an extension. A person found in possession of a small amount of cannabis may still be charged with a more serious offense of possession of cannabis with intent to sell or supply, if police believe this to be the case. The CIR scheme does not apply to offense involving the possession or cultivation of cannabis plants or possession of any quantities of cannabis resin, hash oil, or other cannabis derivatives. These offenses will be prosecuted through the courts. If you would like more information about access to support services in Western Australia, go to the more information section at the end of this booklet. Steroids in Western Australia. It is illegal processes used manufacture, supply, import, or trade steroids without a prescription or license. Penalties range from $2,000 fine and or 2 years in prison and to a 100,000 fine and imprisonment for 25 years. Frequent testing of athletes both in and out of competition increases the chance of athletes to getting caught and being banned from competition, sometimes for life. Caffeine. Under Australian Food Standards Code, the following regulations apply to caffeine and energy drinks in Australia. The caffeine content of cola drinks, Avord cordials, and FL Avord syrups must not exceed 15 mg to 100 mg. Serve and energy drinks must not contain more than 32 mg and 100 mg. Energy drinks and caffeinated beverages must carry clear warnings on the label stating that the product contains caffeine, is not recommended for children, pregnant or lactating women, is not recommended for caffeine-sensitive individuals. Drugs and tolerance, dependence, and withdrawal. With regular use, tolerance to and dependence on drugs can develop. Withdrawal symptoms may be experienced if use of the drug is reduced or stopped. Tolerance, a person needs more of a drug in order to achieve the same effects they felt previously with smaller amounts. Dependence, use of the drug becomes central to a person's life and they may experience withdrawal symptoms if they stop using the drug. Withdrawal describes a series of symptoms that may appear when a drug on which a user is physically dependent is stopped or significantly reduced. The withdrawal symptoms vary depending on a range of factors including the drug type and tend to be opposite to the effects produced by the drug. The body is always trying to maintain a state of balance when the body has become accustomed to the drug for normal functions and use it cease, the body will try to counterbalance for the change, producing withdrawal symptoms. Drugs and relationship problems. Drug use can lead to social and emotional problems and can affect relationships with family and friends. Drugs affect people in different ways. Some people may become depressed, angry, aggressive, sleepy, unmotivated, paranoid, anxious, or talkative. These reactions will affect how they relate to other people, such as friends, parents, and siblings, and may have negative effects on these relationships. Drugs, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. Drugs can affect an unborn child. Psychoactive drugs cross the placenta, the barrier between the mother's and the baby's blood, so a baby is exposed to the same chemicals as the mother. These chemicals can affect the growth and development of the baby and cause miscarriage, premature birth, and birth defects. It is safer not to use any drugs during pregnancy unless under medical supervision. It is recommended that women check with their doctor or other health professional if they are using or planning to use drugs, including prescribed or over-the-counter medicines while pregnant or breastfeeding. Drugs and financial problems. The street price of illicit drugs changes depending on availability and market trends. The cost of purchasing drugs can lead to financial problems for both occasional and regular users. Drugs and taking care medications should be used as prescribed by a doctor and only be the person for whom they are prescribed. It is safer not to use illegal drugs. For those who choose to use illegal drugs, the following should be remembered. So let's move forward here. People of all ages suffer the harmful consequences of drug use and addiction. Teens who use drugs may act out and may do poorly in school or drop out. Using drugs when the brain is still developing may cause lasting brain changes and put the user at increased risk of dependence. Adults who use drugs can have problems thinking clearly, remembering and paying attention. They may develop poor social behaviors as a result of their drug use, and their work performance and personal relationships suffer. And teens who use drugs may act out and may do poorly in school or drop out. Using drugs when the brain is still developing may cause lasting brain changes and put the user at increased risk of dependence. Adults who use drugs can have problems thinking clearly, remembering, and paying attention. They may develop poor social behaviors a result of their drug use and their work performance and personal relationships. Parents' drug use can mean chaotic stress field homes, as well as child abuse and neglect. Such conditions harm the well-being and development of children in the home, may be set the stage for drug use in the next generation. Babies exposed to drugs in the womb may be born premature and underweight. This exposure can slow the child's ability to learn and affect behavior later in life. They may also become dependent on opioids or other drugs used by the mother during pregnancy, a condition called neonatal abstinence syndrome. And that's all, sir. And that's my video reporting all about dangerous drugs, sir. And that's all, sir. Thank you.